You buy a coffee this morning. It costs $5. You don't think about it. Nobody does. But that single $5 decision, repeated every day for 30 years, is the exact reason some people retire rich and others retire broke. Not because of income, not because of luck, because of a habit so small it feels invisible. Here's the strange part. The habit isn't about coffee at all. It's about where your money goes the second you're not looking at it. Most people believe wealth comes from a big break, a promotion, a bonus, an inheritance, a lucky stock pick. That's the myth, and it's a comforting one because it means your daily choices don't matter much. But they do, more than almost anything else. Warren Buffett didn't become one of the richest men alive by picking one genius stock. He became rich because he started early, reinvested constantly, and let small amounts compound for over 70 years. Buffett once said most of his fortune was built after his 50th birthday. Not because he suddenly got smarter, because compounding needed decades to do its quiet work. Compounding is the $5 habit. It's not glamorous. It's not exciting. It's just relentless. Think about a seed. Plant it, and for weeks, nothing seems to happen. Then, almost overnight, it becomes a tree. Money works the same way. For years, it looks like nothing is happening. Then one day, the growth becomes visible, and it looks sudden. It was never sudden. It was patient. So what is the actual habit? It's this. Before you spend, you save. Not after. Before. Economist Milton Friedman spent years studying how people treat income differently, depending on how they receive it. His research on the permanent income hypothesis showed something surprising. People don't just spend based on what they earn today, they spend based on what they expect to earn in the future. Which means if you expect your income to stay the same, you'll spend like it will. And most people do exactly that. That's why raises disappear. That's why bonuses vanish. Your spending quietly rises to meet your income almost every single time. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it is the silent killer of wealth for people earning very good incomes. Someone making $40,000 a year who saves 15% will often retire wealthier than someone making $150,000 who saves nothing. Income is not the determining factor. Behavior is. Here's a question. If you got a 10% raise tomorrow, would you save it? Or would your life just get 10% more expensive? Be honest with yourself. Most people would upgrade something. A car, an apartment, a vacation. Nothing wrong with any of that. But it's the reason so many high earners feel broke despite making excellent money. Now let's talk about the $5 specifically. If you invest $5 a day into an index fund averaging a historical return of around 7% annually, after adjusting for inflation, you end up with more than $150,000 after 40 years. $5 a day. That's it. Most people spend more than that without noticing. On coffee, on subscriptions, on small convenience purchases that feel harmless in the moment. The habit isn't really about coffee. Coffee is just the symbol. The real habit is redirection. Taking small, boring, consistent amounts and putting them somewhere they can grow instead of somewhere they can disappear. John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard and the man who created the first index fund for everyday investors, built his entire philosophy around this idea. He believed most people don't need to beat the market. They just need to participate in it, consistently, for a long time, without pulling their money out during downturns. Bogle's core message was simple. Time in the market beats timing the market. That's uncomfortable to hear if you're waiting for the right moment to start investing. There is no right moment. There is only starting sooner or starting later. Here's where the psychology gets interesting. Behavioral economist Richard Thaler studied why people struggle to save even when they know they should. His research led to something called the Save More Tomorrow program, where people commit to saving a portion of future raises before they even receive them. Companies that implemented it saw savings rates triple within a few years. Why did it work? Because people didn't have to feel the loss. The money was redirected before it ever touched their hands. That's the actual secret behind the $5 habit. It's not about discipline, it's about removing the decision entirely. If you have to decide every single day whether to save, you will lose that fight eventually. Willpower runs out. Automation doesn't. Picture two people, same job, same salary. Person 1 sets up an automatic transfer of $5 a day into an investment account the moment their paycheck lands. Person 2 decides they'll save whatever is left over at the end of the month. 10 years later, Person 1 has a 5-figure investment account they barely noticed building. Person 2 has almost nothing because there's never anything left over. There never is. That's not a coincidence. That's math and psychology working together against Person 2. Wait, doesn't $5 a day sound too small to matter? That feeling is exactly what keeps people from starting. It feels too small to bother with. So people wait until they have real money to invest. And that day, for most people, never comes. Not because they lack money, because they lack the habit already in motion by the time bigger money shows up. The $5 habit isn't about the $5. It's about proving to yourself that you're someone who saves before you spend. Once that identity forms, larger amounts follow naturally. Once it doesn't form, larger incomes just get absorbed by larger expenses. This is why lottery winners so often end up broke within a few years. The money arrived, but the habit never did. A large amount landing on top of no system disappears exactly as fast as a small amount would, just with more zeros. Now think about the version of you 10 years from now. If today's $5 becomes a habit instead of a purchase, that version of you inherits a very different financial life. Not because of some miracle, because of a decision made repeatedly, quietly, without needing motivation on any particular day. That's the whole mechanism behind almost every ordinary millionaire. Not extraordinary income, extraordinary consistency. Thomas Stanley's research into self-made millionaires found something almost boring compared to what people expect. Most of them weren't doctors or entrepreneurs with huge incomes. Many were teachers, engineers, and small business owners who simply lived below their means and invested the difference for decades without interruption. Boring, repeated, unremarkable decisions. That's the actual formula. So here's the reframe. It was never about the coffee. It's about whether $5 today becomes a purchase you forget by tomorrow or a habit that compounds into a completely different financial future. The choice feels small in the moment. It rarely feels small 40 years later. You'll buy something small again today. The only question that actually matters is where that $5 goes next.